Hello, and welcome to the third episode of Water, Trees, Life. I'm your host, Lexi Brewer, with the Denver City Forester's Office. In this series, we explore how nature has been integrated into our built environment and all of the great benefits that come along with that. We talked to 3 area experts all throughout the city to hear about their knowledge in these water, trees, and life systems. In this episode, we'll talk about something that might be on your mind a little bit more than usual lately: leaves. We'll go through the full cycle of leaves, so how you can take care of your tree all throughout the year, including the winter, so that they can produce healthy, happy leaves in the spring and the summer. You can use your leaves to identify emerald ash borer, which could be on your ash trees and is projected to arrive in Denver. In the final section, we'll talk about what you can do with your leaves, which includes composting them instead of sending them to the landfill. First, we'll hear from Paul Kansick of Forestry and my partner on the Be a Smartash team to hear about how you can keep your trees happy and healthy all year long.
You'll see these trees and trees similar in front of city-owned facilities like the city and county building. We plant anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 trees in one season. Some of these trees are starting to turn yellow, getting ready to go dormant. A major part of keeping the trees healthy is keeping them watered, because you have to have a healthy root zone in order to have healthy leaves. A lot of times those fine absorbing roots will be well beyond the drip line of the tree. We recommend 10 gallons of water for every inch of diameter of tree per week. So for instance, if it's a 2-inch tree, it would need 20 gallons of water in a 1-week period. That's the rule of thumb across the board. A tree could use more than the recommended amount of water if it was in a site where the conditions might be a little less favorable to planting of a new tree. These trees could be subject to radiant heat from sidewalks or buildings. A southern-facing tree is going to have a lot more radiant heat than, say, a tree that's facing the north. The ground that the tree is planted in will also play a major factor in establishing the tree. Xeriscape is popular today because it uses less water. It's a little more environmentally conscious because you don't have as much turf that you need to irrigate on your property. But one thing to consider is the tree still needs water, and in that environment it could potentially use a lot more water than a tree planted in irrigated turf grass. We're all familiar with seeing a tree with a healthy canopy. Trees who don't receive adequate amount of water will start to shed their leaves prematurely and even start to die back from the top down. And a sign of a tree that is in distress is advantageous shoot growth near the base of the tree, growth from the root zone of the tree, not from the main meristem, because it's like a last-ditch effort trying to put energy into the root zone that sometimes it'll produce a bigger leaf than normal. The tree is trying to create as much energy as it can to put into the roots for the following growing season. One thing to consider is the tree is dormant and not dead. Just because you don't see a canopy there, there's still a lot going on under the ground. The tree still needs a lot of water. We would like to enjoy the benefits of the tree the following season. And by winter watering, we can ensure that the tree will produce a nice healthy canopy the following growing season. A southern-facing tree in the winter months is going to be subjected to a lot more light because the sun is in a lower angle in the sky. So a lot of that energy is going to be directed right onto the trunk of the tree, which can cause sun scalding. And one way to avoid that is to wrap your tree. Tree wrap can be anything from cardboard to cloth. I think it resembles butcher paper. Just a waterproof material that will take some of that energy that the sun's putting directly onto the trunk of the tree. We're going to take a quick trip to the store and show you some items that you can use to care for your trees. Essentially the same way that we care for trees here. So here we are at our local Ace Hardware store. We're here to pick up some items that we can use to maintain our trees. Lawn and garden, here we go. 2 items that I could use here. Deep root irrigator. This is really good for winter watering and during the growing season also. It is very similar to the one that we use in the parks. Also, I see a soil moisture meter here. This is good for telling you when your soil's dry and when it is an appropriate time to water. Good strong hose. You need to make sure it's the right length to reach your trees if they are a distance from the spigot. Right here we have some tree wrap. This is good to protect the tree during the winter time when the sun is at a lower angle and exposes some of that trunk tissue to damaging UV rays. A few more items that we would like to get: a pair of bypass pruning shears. If you have any smaller deadwood in the tree that is easily reachable, you can prune that out in the fall when you're wrapping your tree. A good pair of gloves is always good. You know, we might be raking up leaves or using sharp tools. It's good to protect the hands, especially if you're removing any mulch, because you might be freshening your mulch beds in the spring. And in the spring, if you're freshening your mulch beds, you can use an item like this, EcoGro Compost. You can use it with your trees, you can use it on your grass, you can use it in your flower bed too. If you do use it with your trees, we suggest that you use no more than 1/4 inch per year within the drip line of the tree. A little bit goes a long way. Participating in our leaf drop program is a great way to prevent leaves from ending up in the landfill. These leaves are also used to make our own EcoGro compost. These bags are available at Ace Hardware. With a coupon off the internet, you can get one for free. denvergov.org/leafdrop. You get your leaf drop bag here at Ace and you fill it with your leaves, and then the compost ends up back here at Ace where you can pick it up and renew your yard with it.
Thanks, Paul. I can't wait to go out and buy a water hose and care for my trees as well. Next, we'll hear from Rich Wilson, a forestry operations supervisor, to learn about leaves and emerald ash borer and how you can use your leaves to identify and help us in our EAB efforts.
Been an arborist for a little over 31 years in the Denver metro area. Basically, a leaf is like the solar panel for the tree, using, sunlight and photosynthesis to create sugars and starches, mixed with the water from the soil, obviously, inside the tree, to create a food source to sustain the life of the tree. There's little pores in the leaves that transpire water, which creates basically the draw of the water up the tree, the nutrients from the soil that are absorbed through the roots, so it kind of circulates. If you don't have water, you're not getting the nutrients from the soil to help combine with the photosynthesis process and create the sugars and carbohydrates. The green pigment in the leaves is chlorophyll, and as we move into the fall season and the days are shorter, colder evenings and stuff, the tree produces less chlorophyll. So basically what you see coming out with the reds and the yellows are the natural pigment of the leaf without the chlorophyll. When the leaves fall, it's kind of like, for a lack of better terms, a self-protection mode. There's not enough sunlight, the tree's not producing chlorophyll, so the leaf can't produce energy and doesn't filter the carbon dioxide, doesn't do all these functions that it's supposed to, so they fall off. What we see is a tree with no leaves, but there's actually beneath, underground, the roots are still growing and recessing and doing their thing at a slower rate, but the tree's still alive and functioning. In a forest setting, you'd let the leaves lay and decompose and add organic material back to the soil, but here, that's kind of unsightly for people's yards and in the parks, of course. We have a leaf drop program. Residents can go to, I believe, Ace Hardware and get recyclable bags to put their leaves in for the leaf drop. The leaves are recycled and put into compost and then distributed out throughout the city for plantings. Just because the leaves have fallen off the trees, that's just one step in the process to be recycled and added back to the soil as compost and food for the trees. We've had storms around Mother's Day and stuff like that freeze all the leaves off. I think we might have had one this year that hammered the ash trees. And so the leaves will fall off, and then the tree will use stored energy to push out a second round of leaves. Now if it happens this time of year, let's say it were to freeze tomorrow, they'd probably just fall off in the tree. It might push some out, but chances are it'd just go dormant. You can see if bugs are chewing on it. That's usually a pretty good telltale sign you might have an issue. With emerald ash borer, generally it's in the top of the tree. EAB is an invasive species that was first found in Boulder. It's a little green beetle. It lays its eggs on the trunk. The larvae go into the tree, basically cuts off the circulation of the tree. Last year it was discovered up by North Glen, 10 miles away roughly, and it's been slowly moving from Boulder. We do what's called phloem reduction to reduce the food source of the beetle. Basically, the less trees there are to feed on, the less food there will be for them to eat. In 2014, I believe it was, we had roughly 6,000 ash trees in our inventory. Our goal is to treat roughly 2,000 or preserve 2,000 ash trees, remove any of them in poor or worse condition. And to date, we've removed roughly 1,800 ash trees of that original 6,000. 1 in 6 trees in Denver are ash trees, and that comes to about 17% of our total population. So you can identify an ash tree by the leaves, the bark, and what we call the bud scars. The leaves are opposite pinnate leaf. So this is a leaflet here, usually an odd number of leaves. Green ash will have less than a white ash, an oval type leaf. Your white ash will have more leaflets on the stem, on the leaf. So there will be like 7 to 9 on a white ash. Green ash will be less. It'll always be an odd number because there's a terminal leaf at the end. But this is an ash tree here. It's an opposite growth pattern, which means, you know, there's a bud on each side of the twig with the leaves as well. They're opposite. You know, they got kind of that grayish furrowed bark. Here's green ash. It's roughly 53 inches in diameter. It was one of the first trees we treated with emamectin benzoate and a trunk injection method, and it's actually my favorite ash tree. We said we weren't going to treat trees unless they were in good or better condition. There's a few trees in here that are large that rate in a fair condition, and I've opted to treat them anyway because of their size. You're never going to get that canopy back.
Is it safe to say you love all the trees, but you're playing favorites?
Thanks, Rich. I really love that ash tree too. Next, we'll hear from Tay Dunkley, a program administrator with the City of Denver, to hear all about our leaf drop program and how you can get involved.
I work with the Denver Compost program, which is part of Denver Solid Waste Management and the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. We are here outside of a Denver urban garden. This is the Horse Barn Community Garden. Denver Urban Gardens has a huge network of gardens throughout the city, and Denver Recycles has a long history of working with Denver Urban Gardens. They are facilitators of our Master Composter program, but they're also users of Denver's own EcoGro compost. So gardeners all across the city are utilizing compost made from the materials collected in Denver's green compost carts to help amend their soil and grow some amazing plants in their plots. We use the same word to describe a couple different things with compost. So composting is a process by which we're actively managing the breakdown of organic material, and organic meaning once living material, back down to some building blocks of life, you could say. And then compost is the result of that process. So it's essentially this really nutrient-dense, stable organic material that can be added to the soil as a soil amendment. So it's fall and leaves are beginning to fall, and I think a lot of people probably haven't put a ton of thought into what to do with all the leaves that are now coating the ground. So it may surprise you that there's actually a huge difference between composting your fall leaves and trashing your fall leaves. When organic materials like leaves break down in the landfill, they're creating methane, and methane is many times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, and so the more we can reduce our methane production in landfills, the better off we all are. Denver Recycles has had a leaf drop program for decades. This program is based on bringing your fall leaves to drop-off locations. And this year we have weekday drop-off locations, and then we also have weekend drop-off locations that start a little later in the season, with the program kicking off in October, and the weekend sites will open on the very last day of October and into November. We are right out front of the City and County building. The compost in these planters is actually made partially with the leaves collected from the leaf drop program and just fall leaves in general that might have been put in a green compost cart. So this is really coming full circle, the leaves that you compost being used as finished compost in these planters. We are trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody to compost their leaves. So to do so, you can easily pick up a pack of free paper leaf bags at Ace Hardware if you download the coupon online. And then you can as you're raking, fill those paper bags, bring them with you to a weekday or weekend leaf drop location, and it's really that easy. The leaves are taken out to Keensburg, Colorado, to a commercial compost facility run by A1 Organics. And at that location, they're combined with a lot of other materials, such as our food scraps and yard debris and non-recyclable paper out of our Denver Compost program. And together, that whole combination of material is composted in an industrial, commercial setting. The Denver Leaf Drop program strongly encourages everyone to utilize paper leaf bags. That makes the process much easier because paper leaf bags are actually compostable along with the leaves. So we don't have to double handle the bag and empty it after you've gone to the work to fill your bag. So make it easier on everyone by using a paper leaf bag, and that'll just make the whole program run smoother. One misconception that people have a lot of times is that if they rake up their leaves and set them out in their alley for extra trash collection, that we will somehow magically collect those as compost. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. So you have to bring your leaves to us with the Leaf Drop program or use a green compost cart. Otherwise, your leaves are going straight to the landfill. Denver Recycles does have a recycling drop-off located at our Cherry Creek transfer station, which is available to all Denver residents year-round. So even if you don't have our collection services, you can still bring your compostable materials to the drop-off. Just last year alone, Denver residents collected 622 tons of leaves for leaf drop. And so if you were to convert that to pounds, it's well over 1 million pounds of leaves that we kept out of the landfill and sent to composting. Even after all of our efforts around composting with the green carts and with the leaf drop program, still almost 50% of what we're sending to the landfill could have been composted. So it's still that organic material like leaves or food scraps. So it's really circular in nature. We like to call it the organics recycling process. And so we are really trying to make sure that as a city, we are doing the full process and closing the loop. When you walk into a forest, the leaves aren't stacked up to your ears. The leaves are constantly degrading and breaking down. But we live in a city, and so we all collect our leaves. We have to do something with them, and so it's kind of cool that we can replicate what nature would have done, even though we are in a city and not in a forest. The bulk of the actual work in the composting process is done by a whole host of microorganisms, from bacteria to fungi, and they actually are what breaks down materials that can turn into what we call compost. I've definitely heard people describe compost and the composting process as being very magical, and I do think that that's the next closest thing to describe what it is, because it is truly amazing how much microbes can do to help us break down our waste stream and turn it into a resource for us. And all we had to do was put the right things in the right places and give it a little bit of time. So I think it's pretty amazing. So Denver's own EcoGro compost is actually on sale at Ace Hardware right now and through October 26th. You can buy 3 bags for the price of 2 right now. So the best way to compost your fall leaves is to participate in Leaf Drop and bring your leaves to us at one of the participating locations, or to utilize your green compost cart and put your fall leaves in your cart each week and set it out for collection that way. You can also backyard compost your leaves, but if you have a ton of them, like most do, leaf drop and the green compost cart are your best bets. Since it's October, we also accept pumpkins at our leaf drop sites, so bring your jack-o'-lantern when you're done with it and you can compost it along with leaves.
Thanks so much for joining me for episode 3 of Water, Trees, and Life. I hope you learned as much as I did, and I hope that you're able to compost your leaves this fall. Go to denvergov.org/leafdrop to find out more. And of course, you can always apply for a free tree if you're eligible. Visit us at beasmartash.org for more information.